Good afternoon. Good evening. Oh no.
Oh, I thought that was some background music Ty had planted.
Hey,
Let's see, it's not on yet.
I knew there was something I didn't do.
Oh, there it goes. Here we go. All right. Okay, so we are live here. Let me tag you. Tag you on it. Debra Moore. There you are, Debra. Yep. Ooh, I'm already sweating like a dog. All right, they're showing we're 7 seconds into this.
Alrighty. Thank you for everyone's patience.
Well, we're normally anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes late. But we're only, 3 minutes late.
Okay.
All right, so we good, Ty? Can you see us? We're all good? Yeah.
Okay.
Let me just give people just about another 30, 45 seconds. Hey, Marianne, can't wait to see you. Anyone coming from the East Coast? I think Pennsylvania is where Marianne Grant's coming from. She's looking for some carpool, last I remember. Ooh, it's going to be hot.
Yeah.
It's all right. We can do it.
Yeah.
It's our own sweat lodge.
There you go.
All right, we got some people coming in now. So I only know how to do things one way, and that's I'm still coming out of my body, or into my body, I should say,
Good.
from this morning. I just know we need to show up and, be in gratitude, be in reverence, be in honor, walk the talk. And so I'm having this 3-hour episode this morning of just one thing after another. I woke up depleted, and I could barely even move. And then as things started to come in, I thought, well, I'm going to be with you at noon. So that means something. There are no coincidences. So if you didn't catch the show last week with Debra, it was very extraordinary. And we just thought we would go ahead and meet again for a couple of reasons, to talk a little bit more and also to let her guide us through something that she wants to offer.
Mm-hmm.
So welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know, where do you want to start with the conversation? I think you said there was something you wanted to extend a little bit from last time.
Yeah. You had asked about if we're in one timeline, and we're multidimensional, and there aren't timelines, earthly timelines, that include that. So let's do it this way. Since 2012, the way the Mayan talked about how we were done, time was done, and the timelines that may have been were collapsing over the next 13 years. The first 6.5 were still very directed by the dark side. The next 6.5, as of mid-2019, are directed by the light. And at some point, we'll understand how we're multidimensional. The linear mind has a difficulty with that. We've been taught that we exist from the point of birth to the point of death. And we make all of our decisions based off of that understanding, that concept of the mind, that construct of the mind. So you can do a play with the mind where you contemplate your point of birth and your point of death. So where were you 100 years ago? Where will you be 100 years from now? If we're eternal beings, as everyone here believe we are, then we're beyond the linear time. Now, what timeline are you going to fall on the transition? Based off of your vibration that you're holding. And so my work always goes towards clearing the dark side so we lighten up everything. The vibration can rise. It helps the planet rise. So we're transforming.
Right. Back to the timeline thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is definitely, I would say 2012 to maybe even May 31st of 2022, there was a certain transition, like what you're talking about, makes a lot of sense, and it resonates with the 6.5 years where the dark was directing, let's say, the chaos or the restructuring, and now the light from 2019, or late 2019, because that's when COVID started. That's when we all got together and said, how can we make everybody go deeper within themselves, pull themselves off of the hamster on the wheel? So you had people that were isolated in their home. They were isolated with people that they lived with for many, many years, in some cases, that they never talked to.
Right.
And so there was a lot of self-introspection. And then, of course, with the whole schools being shut and the normal 9 to 5 being shut down, it lends to some physical evidence of what you're talking about. So I really feel like that's accurate. As far as like the timelines with the human being, from our perspective, this part of our multidimensionality, it feels like, you'd hear people say, "Oh, I'm on this timeline now, and you're not," kind of thing. But it doesn't feel like that to me. It feels like we shift.
They're showing up in your world. How are they not in your timeline?
I love that. But true, that's true. But I guess my point with it, where I was going with it, and you're telepathic with me, so you already knew, is that if we are off what appears to be the same timeline or the same understanding or the same whatever, it doesn't mean we've lost connection. We're all connected.
We are all connected, yes. Do we know? Do we live from our connection, or are we living from the constructs, the conditioning of the ego mind? And for 13,000 years, humanity has been in this egoic mindset that we're breaking out of, but we're not individually completely out of. And how much are we working it? How honest are we with ourselves? As I said before, we're going in. What does that look like? Well, am I blaming other people for my circumstances, for my feelings? Number one, stop the blame. You know who blames? The ego blames. You know why the ego blames? Because it knows it's not the creator, so it can't possibly be responsible. Makes sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely it does. So I think, because so many people's narratives, they are, they're their own personal explanation. To me, it's all metaphoric and all energetic, but I think part of what you're saying falls in line with our friend Franco D. Nicola, who transitioned last year, and who been a kind of a trailblazer for many, many, many years. But he said that, I believe this would have been January 2019, that kind of like finished in December 2019, the distorted matrix, the distorted 3D had been shut off. There's, and his narrative was like it was coming through the moon, and a lot of people talk about the moon, how it was, artificial, and it was being used to control it, etc. But what he said was that from this point forward, that the moon and anything else would be used to amplify this new energy, and that the only remnants of the distortion would be in the egos that was implanted within us by our own choice, so that it would work in tandem with that operating system that's now been shut down. So I guess the moral to the story, or what I see that aligns from his narrative to your understanding, is that it's just on us now, like as never before.
As never before. And we're creating it. So if we're staying in the egoic, it's everybody else's fault. You made me, feel bad, you're hurting me. No one hurts you. You choose to be hurt by what they do. It's a big one. And, going back to blame, what I watch people do underneath the blame, they judge, and they're judging themselves for blaming. So as we move this energy and rise up and become aware of what we're thinking and what we're projecting out, it's not to judge yourself. It's to start witnessing so you can refine it. The judgment's another trick of the mind to hold you in that position. So it's like an old game when I was a child. I don't know if anyone else played Chutes and Ladders. You go up the ladder and you think you're really getting somewhere, and then you judge yourself and you slide back down. And again, it's okay that you're doing it as long as you're becoming aware, and the energy begins to refine. The more you witness it, the less strength it has on you. The more you engage in it, believe it, substantiate it, the stronger it gets. So what are you feeding?
Yeah. I like what you said, because I know last year when I left Soulogy Fest and I went back to Arkansas and I started juicing and I started really going deep, that was my mantra every day. Was every time something would appear, I'd say, okay, first thing, no judgment, which meant no judgment to myself first and foremost, but also to whoever were the faces of whatever was presenting itself to me. And and it went on for like maybe 5 months. I would do that constantly. I was by myself, and it was a deep dive, but it was also a huge expansion. I think what you had to say about experiencing it or observing it is actually, if it's without judgment, is actually freeing you up.
Yes. And allowing the judgment to come up if that's what's going on. It's part of the mechanism. It's like tentacles, and the more we stay in witness, the more it shows what's controlling us.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
It's quite the journey, and it's the journey we're on. We're either going to voluntarily go inside and undo the conditioning, or we're going to be faced with intense experiences that wake us up.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a lot to be said too, I think, for sitting with what we're feeling. I said no judgment. I mean, I think I wasn't in a place where I was avoiding judgment. Anger, sit with jealousy, sit with sadness, sit with grief.
And resistance to all of that.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Just like today, you said, hey, you look rested or whatever. And I'm like, no, it's the opposite of that. But it's both, right? Like, they're both sitting there.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I was rested. Once I got here, I felt like, wow, I'm glad I'm finally here.
Yeah.
I made it up through
You're
VOC in Sedona without having some type of dimensional experience or getting shot out of my body. But at the same time, very unrested. Like, there's this integration happening in all moments now. And when you say, or when I experience sitting with my own sadness, or sitting with my own judgment, or sitting with my own projections, there's something that happens that brings it to equilibrium if we sit with it and don't resist it anymore.
So look at it this way. These conditionings and emotions that we have been suppressing into the subconscious because we don't want to see what's really going on out there, and we don't want to believe what we see going on in here, takes a lot of energy. Mm-hmm. So when you stop resisting, by letting the resistance come up and out, not by stopping it, but by feeling it, you're beginning to also wake up to how exhausting it is to hold all that stuff back. And so now you just keep letting it come up, and it's refreshing on one hand, but now you're tapping in also into the amount of energy that it took to hold it down, that tiredness. It's, dualistic. It's the paradox. And at some point, you do integrate. You don't have, it's what, I've been taught is truly awoke, is that you have no filters. You're not suppressing anymore. What shows up is what shows up.
And what you say and what you think coming into alignment with that in the moment.
I have found it's like the mind is a software program, and you do need to, So one of my teachers in India, first time I listened to him, was asked, Bhagavan, I can't sleep at night. What can I do? My thoughts keep me awake. And his response was, I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is that your thoughts are not yours. The bad news is because your thoughts are not yours, you can't stop them.
I like that.
Yeah, and it's deep. And there comes a point, I've got more space in my thoughts as I've cleared my energetic body, as I cleared my emotional havoc from this life and other lives. Because what I've witnessed is that when someone's tight and they're holding on to an emotion and they don't want to show their anger, but they're angry, the mind's spinning. And it's like the wind goes up into the mind and it just makes this situation worse. The judgments come out. You get even more angry, all right? So you learn to let it out of your chakras by feeling into it, being in your body, letting it release, and the mind will calm down.
Would you say that the more, I'm not trying to ask a leading question.
That's okay.
But
I'm fine.
because of the way that you told that story and then your take on it from there, would you say that the more we try to, or let me put it this way, if we try to understand to the nth degree, is that some type of energetic detriment? Is that some type of blockage? Is that some type of ego survival tactic, trying to like intellectualize everything and understand everything?
I would say so. The hardest thing for us is to be centered in the unknown, to be spontaneous, to be in the moment when our egoic mind is still controlling. So it's getting to see the mechanism and witnessing it so you can start derailing it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's where my mantra, no judgment, came in, because I guess things were coming up and
Makes sense.
sitting with them in judgment was not doing anything for me. You know what I mean?
It
So
doesn't.
sitting with them as like information
Yeah.
or, I don't know, magnetism or just code.
Yeah.
And sitting with them in the body, like you said, where is it located? What's happening? What does it mean? And sometimes you don't know. I mean, I found I didn't know. I just found that if I sat with it and owned it as myself and blocked everything and everyone out, then I would get to this place. And it wasn't like a place where I had like a soulgasm or something fun. It would be a place where I would just come out of it and I would almost feel dull. Like I'd been dulled,
How about that?
almost like a, almost like when you have a pain and the pain becomes numb.
Yeah.
So it was strange, but at the same time, within hours, usually I'd go to sleep or wake up or take a nap, then I would feel that more that the stillness that you're talking about, that space where your thoughts can form or the thoughts can be received,
Yeah,
became
nice.
less and less chatter as time went on.
So you bring up a great point, and that's the macro and the micro. In the macro, there was the fall. And what was the fall? The fall from grace. And what did that mean? We were crown breathers prior to third dimension, and the pranic energy came in through the crown and filled the energetic body, and things in this mechanism would have been turned on much better than they are right now. We fall, we become nose mouth breathers. We don't get the same amount of pranic energy. We don't understand what's going on. So we start stealing it from other people. And that sounds so barer than any of us would admit to, but it's our drama. We get addicted to the highs and the lows and the highs and the lows. It's like we're on this not merry-go-round, what do you call it, roller coaster, right? And if we're not in some sort of argument, debate, disagreement, or something going on, we don't get that hit, that high where we're getting fed. People don't understand. You'll make people mad, and when their anger comes out, they're feeding you. Now, it's not a very good feed, but you're going to feel different afterwards if you're aware enough. So the whole point is to go neutral, right? So you feel the feeling rather than engage in the drama. And when you just go there, you will initially feel numb. It's a good word because you're used to going in, we're all used to going into the highs and the lows and getting a feed or feeding others. It's just how humanity's been. But when you find that neutral point, it's like drawing a line across the roller coaster. And if you stay with that neutral point, it begins to get wider. And you begin to have your life connected to source energy, and you begin to get fed by your divine again, and you get that connection and know your spirit family's with you, and the flow of life becomes evident. Otherwise, we're in the drama.
Yeah, and so in what you were talking about, like, let's say it's anger. Anger wells up in one. It's then directed at the other. We know that it was a codependent kind of thing that went on that we all came from. We were all vampires, We were all
To a
just
certain degree,
brought
yes.
to that.
Yep.
We were doing what was only familiar to us because that's what we
Yes.
thought that's all it was.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have a situation where, like in your case or anyone's case, that same type of thing starts to come at you. And this neutrality that you're talking about, this 0 point, I call it the soul highway. I mean, this place, there's been so much fluffy love and light in regard to it. I don't feel it's that kind of place. I feel
It's
like
not.
when I stand in that space of neutrality, I still see, hear, touch, feel, whatever, what was happening before from these mirrors of me or whatever. But what I find is that what you said is true. The more time I spend in that space, the wider the road gets and the easier it is. But it's still not fluffy love and light. It's not bad. Don't get me wrong. I can still feel their pain. I can still feel my different feelings. But I'm in this space as a human being and not as some aspect of me that's outside of my body that keeps me safe and not in touch with my human being.
And that's been one of the hardest transitions for the quote-unquote New Agers that went all towards light. It's both. The darkness of itself is not bad. it's void. It's the creation of all energies, sits there. It holds the light. But when we constantly go towards one and we're not looking at the shadow that trails us, we will hit a wall.
Absolutely. Especially in this energy.
Yes.
It won't be a wall. It'll be like walls come tumbling down on your head.
I started, 30 some years ago, and it was pretty dense on the planet, and it was hard, but I had more time to witness the responses to things. Now it's two-edged sword, right? It's going to go faster. It's going to open faster for you than it did me if you're just beginning the work. Yes, but also it's going to come at you faster. So you get both.
So in terms of I think we talked about this last time, you have somewhat of a feel for what's going on right now for everybody. And I don't mean that like across the board. I just mean...
Yeah, the macro.
Yeah, in the general. Obviously, with what you're saying, and I think everybody here can relate, there's a tremendous amount of energy that's unveiling us to ourselves, or at least giving us the opportunity to look at ourselves if we're willing to do that. And of course, enough people are in this same waters that we swim, and it's a daily thing. It's an ongoing thing. There's some, and I'm not going to say this to slight or throw shade on anyone or anything, because I do believe that every day we get a higher truth. What was applicable yesterday is less applicable today because more of a awareness comes in and we have access to higher truths and understanding. But this isn't going away.
No, it's going to intensify.
Yeah.
We're not playing the old game anymore. We talked the other day about we're here to roll up the third dimension. Do you even engage in what that means? Because I look at those words and go beyond this human perception. I have no idea how that's going to look. All I know is stay in my body, follow my feet and my heart. I'm always placed where I belong. And I've been 12 years nomadic up to a month ago. And trust me, my first few months, I was in India and Bali. So it was great. I came back to the States. I landed back in Philadelphia where I grew up and hadn't been for decades. And I went into a lot of doubt. And luckily my guidance came in and said, you're doubting. And it just broke. And then doors started opening up. And I was like, I did not make this happen. People giving me places to stay, wanting me to do workshops. I wasn't asking. They were like, no, we need you to do this. And it just kept rolling. And so there was never a night I did not have a roof over my head. And it seemed that there was always a bed for me because I didn't have one. And that was pretty shocking, but they knew I would do it if I had a certain level of quality of life. And more of a princess.
Yeah, no, not princess. not with that track record. Yeah, and I think that's another fallacy or another, like precondition that we came from, which was, obviously in the Western civilization, we have the icon of Jesus, the suffering, the pain, and we don't have to do that anymore. Yeah. We don't have to suffer to serve, and really, the only quote unquote suffering that we are up against, if that
is our own.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like you said, this brutal honesty of the soul that what I'm starting to see and experience, where these things can then be expressed openly to another person, to a group, to on live stream, whatever, where you actually take these moments and share them, as opposed to, do this exercise, do this modality, do this process. Not that those things don't have their place, but the bottom line is they're all created for us to get to this same point, which is us face to face with ourselves, so that we can find out what we're not and what we are, which has nothing to do with anybody outside of us at the point that we're getting to now. It's just not allowing us to make those excuses anymore.
Well, it doesn't for me, for sure. I can't speak to others, but I would suspect, over the next few years, the more you're walking with your soul family, the more you're connected to your divinity, you will be told. When I was living in Sausalito in 2010. I had a corporate job in downtown San Francisco. I'd done 20 years of straddling being a shaman and being in corporate, and never telling one person what I held. I just never talked about it. I couldn't. They would have fired me or found a reason to, because they would have been afraid. So I straddled until life opened a door. I packed everything up in Sausalito, and my mind freaked out. The last day, I was putting my car into storage to go to India, and I couldn't. It was screaming at me, and I had about 5 things, and I would hear my guide say, "Get off at this exit." And there was the Rileys I got to cover my car, the cover for my car. I couldn't have done it. My mind was nuts. And so many people who haven't developed the internal foundation to trust themselves, to really understand how the mind has manipulated us, and to start the fundamentals of doing that, you're going to be in circumstances where that's going to happen. So at the very least and the most, all at the same time, is to connect to your divinity. If you do nothing else, make that connection so that that family that has been with your soul from the beginning, you'll be able to hear what they're saying. Follow it. They'll never point you in the wrong direction, no matter what happens.
That's a mic drop. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not faith on my part. That's direct knowing. I've had one experience after another, and they've wanted me to have that. It was like, drop everything else and do this. And I didn't understand in the beginning, but I certainly understand it 12 years later.
Yeah, we're on the same. When was this?
That was 2010.
2010. See, mine was May 30th, 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. So one of the things that happened to me over the first 7 months is, even though these extraordinary things were happening and I was hearing the words, I still wasn't 100%.
Right.
And then I began to realize that the clutter was keeping me from the clarity of what you're calling soul family and the messages that they send. Mm-hmm. I remember one night, it was October, so I was about, 5 months into it, and I was selling meat door to door,
mm-hmm.
Trying to get back on my feet.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went to some place and danced and drank, and I'm 18 miles from the hotel room that I have for the night, and everything just fell apart. Mm-hmm. But I heard this voice, and the voice said, "Go over to this tree and kneel down, and we'll talk." So I go to the tree and I kneel down, and I start hearing the family, and everything's okay. You're all right. You're not homeless. You're not familyless. You're not nothing. It's all an illusion. Mm-hmm. And then it starts raining, and it was the first cold rain, right?
Right.
It was really cold, and I was dressed like this. And I said, what am I going to do? Because the tree was like the only tree. It was in a field in parking lots, and there was nothing else to run to. And they said, go down to the last door on the right. It will be open for you. So it was in a warehouse district, and I ran, and it must have been like a football field,
Right.
length. And I get to the last door, and sure enough, it was open.
Yeah.
And I went and lay down inside and had a sleep, and
Yeah.
then got up the next day. But yeah, that was the reason I brought that up is because that was probably the first time that I was getting conversations, or that I was hearing them,
Right.
that were not of some type of high charge nature, like
Right.
get out of this, or
Right.
screaming at me, like
Right.
trying to wake me up. This
Right.
was more of a hey, very nurturing, and it didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Makes no sense at all.
Not to the mind,
Mm-mm.
but to the heart it does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it does.
There's something I want to share. I'd spent time at an ashram in Pondicherry, India, Sri Aurobindo and the mother, and you can go online and look them up. Profound energies. Aurobindo probably wrote a library of information. And one of the things they talk about is that we have a chakra on the back of our heart, and they call it the psychic being. And we have a different understand of psychic. So don't get confused with a Western viewpoint, but that it's the chakra. And it's the ego's in front, and we're doing everything through my will. I want this. These are my goals. This is what I'm going after. I got to get up and do this every single day to make that happen. And it's me, 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 me. And all the while, the psychic being chakra in the back is kind of dropping stories into the heart and directives and stuff, but we're so caught here. When the shift happens, this chakra spins from the back of the heart to the front. And when that happens, you begin to follow life. It's thy will. This is the truth to me. Thy will be done. And then you're following life's information, directives, the red-tailed hawk, the drop of the information into the clear audio in through the trance channels that sits outside our ears in our energy body, and the information starts coming in from the dimensions, either our higher self or our spirit body or our soul group that are here to assist us. And you said something the last time about boots on the ground, and from my understanding of things that I've seen, it's like, okay, we have these geometric figures around us. Some call it the Merkaba and more. And on each of the points of the Merkaba, I've seen souls sitting that are always with us. We just happen to be in the physical. And my experience has been is some of my past lives weren't really what I would call mine. It was one of my soul brothers or sisters incarnated, and I was walking with them and had experienced things through their incarnation. So life isn't as simple.
No, I agree with that. I agree with the fact that there is around me, let's just call it my own monad, all right?
Nice.
And I don't know how that looks and everything, but like what you said about on the points of the Merkaba, I can see that. And then I also totally agree with what you're saying about like even the conception of past lives. I could have been, the cells in your pinky toe, right? Or I could have been one point on the Merkaba, and I was your spirit guide,
Right.
and I lived your life just as you did, really. And so I have that memory now that I come into this incarnation or whatever. Yeah.
But they do forget of what it is to have to eat and take care of business because they're not in the physical.
Exactly.
I have to remind them every once in a while.
Yeah, I want some tacos.
Yeah.
Yeah, but on that note too is like the emotional quotient. Like I have a friend, I've told this story a few times, I'll tell it again, Alicia Brachet in Australia. And one of her purposes is to bring awareness to the energetic gestations and pregnancies and births that women in particular give in the earth plane that we never see. Mm-hmm. So it's everyone has their own little piece of it, right? Mm-hmm. And so this has been an ongoing thing for her. It was a really big thing for her to come out and talk about it. She did it with me. It was very amazing. She's done a lot of work anonymously in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And so through this work, she's found women all over the world like this, which is quite amazing. But she said something to me one time that really stayed with me. And she had a mantis being come into her room, and which most people, I think, understand they're very, very high frequency, like very, very, in the upper echelon of maturity at a soul level, at least from what I picked up on. Mm-hmm. Her account seems to be the same, which makes this even more extraordinary. So the mantis came in and said, listen, and I know a lot of people can relate to this one way or the other, everything's okay. Everything's all right. We're with you. We're watching you, and we got your back. And she said, what about my emotional health? And he said, we didn't figure that in. Mm-mm. So my feeling has always been that we're taking these emotions that have run rampant and internalizing those and using those as alchemical material to then create an energy that we own in sovereignty as opposed to somebody's sustenance that's feeding off of us. And the fact that mantis didn't understand, and his or her brethren, the emotional part of being a human being is the boots on the ground, but it's also our gift.
Well, there's a couple different things that you want to take a look at. One is that these physical bodies that we're in, that I call earth suits, are constantly in a chemical reaction. So they've even done science like on anger. If the cocktail of anger comes together in the physical body, it's very destructive to our cells who's holding it and running it for 18 hours after. And then the cocktail for love, when let's take the love of a pet, which is normally unconditional, and you experience that love for your kitty cat or dog or turtle, whatever it is, you're putting that cocktail of love running it through your system. Outside of these bodies, from what I understand, nobody runs emotions like we do. It's how we've been engineered, and it's one of the biggest gifts. But again, we're in duality. It's also our curse. And until we begin to learn how to neutralize our expressions of energy, both, then we can come into what's considered like fifth dimensional energies, joy. Joy doesn't have a real opposite. They'll even say love is a universal experience. But for us, most of our love in these suits is conditional. And I believe when we fall in love with somebody is one of the hardest things, because we're going to have to give up our conditions more than likely to really be with another person. And so it's a journey to mature within your emotional body, so that you build the energy in the energetic body, you don't burn it, and then you can manifest. So you want rain, you do visualization, the traditional native, feel it, breathe the ozones, have it, the mud squishing through your feet, and you'll get rain. But you have to have everything lined up. If you're out of sorts over here, that's burning energy off. And so many of us don't move forward because we're so involved, again, in the drama that we're constantly burning our energy off and suppressing how we feel. So when we go into the alchemical shifting of the physical earth suit, and we, I said this before, when I clear on certain triggers, and I met up with those people a few years later, and they were doing exactly the same thing that I was all pissed off about a few years before. There was no movement in my body. I even looked down like, where's the anger? Where's the upset? It didn't matter. They were fine. Not my cup of tea, but, that's up to them to do something about where they're at, even just to recognize. And I blessed them and, moved on, never saw them again.
Yeah. And who's to say that the soul, which it is, for them, is giving them exactly what they want or need or whatever.
It gives us all exactly what we want. And at what point and what piece of the puzzle do we hold? It's like we talked about, my view of extraterrestrials. And I would say I work more with extraplanetaries. And who are they? Those who have come from other planets and incarnated into the physical. They come to me all the time because they know this is crazy out there and they're looking for some understanding. And so we realigned and aligned them and moved the sadness out of their heart of their missing their home planet and say, you came in for a mission? Come on in. The extraterrestrials, it's not my job. It's not my piece of the puzzle. Yeah, they're there. Absolutely.
What do you call the difference?
Extraplanetaries.
Meaning from other star
their
systems?
souls evolved on other planetary systems. So
I got you.
There's angelic realm beings, which is I'm an angelic. I spent a lot of time in the fairy realms, eons. And then I came into some other planetary systems until I got into this universe in Arcturia was my first. And then I was in Andromeda for sure. And a few others to prepare. We can take millions of years to prepare to come into the third dimension. So we've got the angelics, we have the extraplanetaries. The only ones that get to incarnate are those who have risen to the top of their planetary system.
Right.
And when it was viewed that Earth was going to come back and things were getting rolled up, she put a cry out and said, I need fifth, seventh, ninth dimensional energies on the planet so I can remember what that feels like so I can go up. And so the only thing they had to do was come in and have a life on planet Earth. Their souls, though, and that was the other thing, a lot of them don't sleep during the night because they're giving information back to their own planetary system from a boots on the ground. So Earth's not only gaining from their presence, their worlds are also evolving from them being here. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's...
I totally align with that.
Yeah. And
Totally.
what's the third one? Oh, my goodness. Okay. Angelics, extraplanetary... Oh, human beings, which, of course, are the souls that were created in this solar system. And Moldeck having been blown up, there were many billions of souls that got blown up, have reincarnated here on the planet. So they're more, just really everyday folk. They're not out there. They're raising children. They're good hearts. We're doing this to help them because they really can't. And then the fourth is what has been called vital beings, and they had turned to the dark at some point. And when the earth came into this duality, and you have to have as much dark as light, she agreed that any soul that had turned to the dark and wanted to come back to the light could incarnate as a human being. They would not have a navel chakra. The Maripuram would be not there, so they could not have power of their own. But what they're masters of is taking others' power. And I'd say Hitler is the greatest example in his clicking of the heels. The chi runs up the spinal cord and goes out, and you send it to him, and he knew how to get people to give him power. So their job is not to take power from other people. And if they do that through a number of incarnations, they'll get the rewiring back connected to to their divinity and their spiritual evolution that we're working in now. They're completely, so you talk to somebody about your spirit work and they start talking about the weather. They can't even stay on the same frequency. They're not allowed. There's people that I know from growing up that were vitals, great people, good hearts, but they don't get me. In fact, I'm too much frequency for them. Yeah. And it's okay. I finally got that they're here to do, and they're doing it. And I'm grateful and thankful that they're coming back to the light.
That's wild. That's wild to think that, because I can think of so many people in my life that were so just pure, simple, unaffected, just went about their, like you said, just normal people. And to think that a great number of them were
could be
in a different, it could be.
Yeah. They're human or vital.
Right. Like that they could have been one of those that came here to do what you said, that had turned to the dark. Yeah. And also that the mother would say, I'll give you another chance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
She loves all her children. Spirit doesn't turn its back on us ever. We just have to ask, right? So
now we're going to do something a little bit different today.
Yeah.
Do you want to kind of intro or explain? Or
Yeah. First of all, if you're driving, don't listen to the next part right now. Listen to it when you're home and can rest. And just be with the energy movement. We're going to take you inside on a journey and connect you up. And it's a grounding for sure. And we're needing that right now. We have some amazing astrological events going on today. There's a triple conjunction. There's all this movement, and we're going into a next phase. So the best thing we can do is ground. So in the future, you can use this, also come back to it if you find yourself really scattered, and start to ground. Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, be in it. And Ty is going to do some backup gongs for us. So we're just going to take a minute and realign our energies. Coming inside of ourselves, feel into your heart. Follow your breath, following in and following out. And if you need to, take a deep breath through the nose and out through the mouth and let the body relax. And just take a moment and settle in as we go on this inner journey. Holy Mother, Father God, I call upon divine love and light all the beings that walk with me through this transition, all the beings of all the people that witness this journey, that their soul-connected family be with them in this moment, in this journey. Anything that arises, just let it come up and let it go as best you can. And so settle into the heart, breathing in and breathing out. Settling into the heart, breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Feeling deep into the heart, to the mandala of your chakra. Slowly feel yourself breathing into the heart and breathing out of the heart. Experience the breath in the front of the heart and in the back of the heart. Breathing in and breathing out. And now we're going to drop down to the solar plexus, the power chakra. Breathing into the power chakra and breathing out of the power chakra. Breathing in the front and breathing out the back. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Ever so slowly, feeling into the power chakra, allowing the energies that are there to come up and release as you breathe in and breathe out. Dropping again down to the sacrum, an inch below the navel, asking to open your creative center, breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Allowing yourself to relax deeper and deeper into your system as you drop to the root, to the very base of the trunk of your body. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out, and allowing the root to open, the security of your life, feeling deeply within the root as you drop your awareness to your knees, asking the chakra at the knee and the ankle to open, breathing in and breathing out. Feeling the sole of your feet, invoking the chakra to open. witness. Is it already connected? Has it been closed? Either is fine. We're just in witness as we invoke the energy of this chakra of the sole of your feet to open, and dropping your awareness to just a foot under your feet. There is what is called the Earth Star. Dropping your awareness into your Earth Star. Is it awake? Is it dormant? Your awareness will open it up, will activate it. It just needs your attention. Asking that it blossoms to the width of your shoulders. You'll notice the Earth Chakra is connected to the sacred geometry of the new Earth. Feel the energy of the new Earth running through the Earth Star. Stay in awareness, stay with your breath, experience what your Earth Star shows you. Know it, feel it, see it, however it presents. Now you're going to notice at the base of the star a cord that drops down through the earth. With your awareness, begin to ride the cord down as we go deep into the Mother Earth to meet with her. You'll find yourself in a cave. It's brilliant, lit. All of the animals of the earth are there. Hearts fully open. They live off the prana of the Great Mother. Now take your cord and wrap it around a rock. As the Great Mother presents herself to you. Does she talk to you? Do you see her? In what form does she take? Does she radiate you, her beloved? Do you have a question for her? You will begin to experience her energy filling the cord. You descended into her. Allow her energy to begin to ride up the cord. And when you're ready, you'll feel the Earth Star filling with her energy. You'll feel a pulsation. It is the beat of the Great Mother's heart. And the love she holds for you. Allow it to come into your feet. Just like you're walking on her and you're dancing on her to the heartbeat of the earth. Honoring her. Allow this heartbeat to move to your knees. To the root chakra. To the sacrum. To your solar plexus. Raising your frequency in these first three chakras. Clearing what needs to be cleared. With ease and grace. Allow the heartbeat to move into your heart chakra. aligning with your heartbeat. Now place your awareness at the top of your head to the crown. Invite the crown to open if it is not already. Looking up, there's a chakra above the crown. Slide up to the soul star just above the head. Allow any messages from the higher self to drop down through the crown from the soul star. You can do this each day. Looking up, there's a chakra above. If you can, slide up. We'll go up one more. Sliding up. And from this point, you can look up and see a ray of light coming down to greet you. Allow this energy to fill the chakra. It is the heartbeat of the Father. Coming down, letting it drop into the ninth. And then into the soul star. There's an adjustment as the energy drops onto the crown, opening up all of the petals, straightening them up, allowing you to be comfortable with what you receive. Your higher self oversees this. You are protected as it drops into your third eye, opening your abilities at the rate that's appropriate for you. You'll begin to feel this light, this beat of the Father dropping into the throat, opening up the trance channels, clearing the mouth of God. Dropping into the heart, merging with the Great Mother. You, the Mother and the Father, are one. In the heart, in the beat, you are connected. See that your earth and the sky are combined in your heart, making a place for both. Merging the two. Mother, Father, Child. Trust that it's happening. Allow the frequency to run through your energetic being, the meridians, the chakras, the nadis, Now return to your breath, breathing in and breathing out from the heart, breathing in and breathing out. Notice a golden dot in the center of the heart. Breathing in and breathing out as this dot begins to expand 360 degrees. Breathing in and breathing out. Slowly, it's a ball of light, of golden light, expanding through the heart. that golden bubble of light from your heart pop out. It is your aura surrounding you, connecting you, protecting you. Feel it. Now return to your breath, placing your awareness on your breath. Experiencing yourself all at once. All that you are is all you are connected to. Trust that. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes and come back to this world while being completely aware of your inner world. I want to stretch